Oh, yeah. Boom, boom. I'm not going to do the second one because it's cheesy. But I will make an It's Always Sunny reference. Y'all ever hear the Deep Bow Bow song? So, chapter 9 of the life of Pythagoras. What Pythagoras said to the youths in the gymnasium, these reported to their elders. Hereupon these later, 1,000 strong, called him into the Senate house, praised him for what he had said to their sons, and desired him to unfold to the public administration any thoughts advantageous to the Crotonians, which he might have. His first advice was to build a temple to the Muses, which would preserve the already existing concord. He observed to them that all of these divinities were grouped together by their common name, that they subsisted only in conjunction with each other, that they specially rejoiced in social honors, and that, in spite of all changes, the choir of the Muses subsisted always one and the same. They comprehended symphony, harmony, rhythm, and all things breeding concord. Not only to beautiful theorems does their power extend, but to the general symphonious harmony. Justice, just ice, nothing else, was the next desideratum. Y'all ever read a desideratum? Their common country was not to be victimized selfishly, but to be received as a common deposit from the multitude of citizens. They should therefore govern it in such a manner that, as an hereditary possession, they might transmit it into their posterity. This could best be effected in the manners of the administration realized their equality with the citizens. If the members of the administration realize their equality with the citizens, with the only supereminence of justice, it is from the common recognition that justice is required in every place. That were created the fables. What? It is from the common recognition that justice is required in every place that was created for the fables that themes seated in the same order with Jupiter, and that dice or dice or rightness is seated by Pluto, and that law is established in all cities, so that whoever is unjust in things required of him by his possession in society may concurrently appear unjust towards the whole world. Moreover, senators should not make use of any of the gods for the purpose of an oath, inasmuch as their language should be such as to make them credible without any oaths. As to their domestic affairs, their government should be the object of deliberate choice. They should show genuine affection to their own offspring, remembering that these, from among all animals, were the only ones who could appreciate this affection. Their associations with their partners in life, their wives, should be such as to be mindful that while other compacts are engraved in tablets and pillars, the uxorial ones are incarnated in children. They should moreover make an effort to win the affection of their children, not merely in a natural and voluntary manner, but through deliberate choice, which alone merits beneficence. Alright, kid, I know you only need bread and water, but I got you a muffin today. He further besought them to avoid connection with any but their wives, lest lest angered by their husbands' neglect and vice, these should not get even by adulterating the race. They should also consider that they received their wives from the vestal hearth with libations, and brought them home in the presence of the gods themselves, as suppliants would have done. Also that by orderly conduct and temperance they should become model not only for their family but also for their community. Again, they should minimize public vice, lest offenders indulge in secret sins to escape the punishment of the laws, but should rather be impelled to justice from reverence for beauty and propriety. Procrastination also was to be ended, inasmuch as opportuneness was the best part of any deed. The separation of parents from their children Pythagoras considered the greatest of evils. While he who is able to discern what is advantageous to himself may be considered the best man, next to him in excellence should be ranked he who can see the utility in what happens to others, while the worst man is he who waited till he himself was afflicted before understanding where true advantage lies. Seekers of honor might well imitate racers who do not injure their antagonists, but limit themselves to trying to achieve the victory themselves. Administrators of public affairs should not betray offense at being contradicted, but on the other hand, benefit the tractable. Seekers of true glory should strive really to become what they wished to seem, for counsel is not as sacred as praise, the former being useful only among men, while the latter mostly referred to the divinities. In closing, he reminded those that their city happened to have been founded by Hercules at a time when, having been injured by Licinius, he drove the oxen through Italy, when, rendering assistance to Croton by night, mistaking him for an enemy, he slew him unintentionally. Wherefore, Hercules promised that a city should be built over the sepulchre of Croton, and from him derive the name Crotona, thus endowing him with immortality. Therefore, said Pythagoras to the rulers of the city, these should justly render thanks for the benefits they had received. The Crotonians, on hearing his words, built a temple to the Muses, and drove away their concubines, and requested Pythagoras to address the young men in the temple of Pythian Apollo, and the women in the temple of Juno. Ooh. Chapter 10. Advice to youths. The two boys, Pythagoras, complying with their parents' request, gave the following advice. They should neither revile anyone nor revenge themselves on those who did. They should devote themselves diligently to learning, which in Greek derives its name from their age. A youth who started out modestly would find it easy to preserve probity for the remainder of his life, which would be a difficult task for one who is at that age. Which would be a difficult task for one who at that age was not well disposed. Nay, for one who begins his course from a bad impulse to run well to the end is almost these are weird sentences sometimes, man. You mess with me. A youth who started out modestly would find it easy to preserve probity for the remainder of his life, which would be a difficult task for one who at that age was not well disposed. Nay, for one who begins his course from a bad impulse to run well to the end is almost impossible. You know what? You could have benefited from lots of commas here. My English teacher would be ashamed. Pythagoras pointed out that boys were most dear to the divinities, and he pointed out that in times of great drought, cities would send boys as ambassadors to implore rain from the gods, in the persuasion that divinity is especially attentive to children. Although such as are permitted to take part in sacred ceremonies continuously hardly ever arrive at perfect purification. That is also the reason why the most philanthropic of the gods, Apollo and Love, are in pictures universally represented as having the ages of boys. It is similarly recognized that some of the games in which conquerors are crowned were instituted for the behoof of boys. The Pythian, in consequence of the serpent Python having been slain by a boy, and the Nemean and Isthmian because of the death of Archimerus and Nalicerta. Nalicerta? Moreover, while the city of Crotona was building, Apollo promised to the founder that he would give him a progeny if he brought a colony into Italy, inferring therefrom that Apollo presided over their development, and that inasmuch as all the divinities protected their age, it was no more than fair that they should render themselves worthy of their friendship. He added that they should practice hearing, so that they might learn to speak. Further, that as soon as they had entered on the path along which they intended to proceed for the remainder of their existence, they should imitate their predecessors, never contradicting those who were their seniors, for later on, when they themselves will have grown, they will justly expect not only to be injured by their future juniors because of these moral teachings. Pythagoras deserved no longer to be called by his patronymic, but that all men should call him divine. Oh, this next chapter has a trigger warning. I'm about to mansplain some shits. Get your fucking helmets on, because chapter 11 is advice to women. To the women, Pythagoras spoke as follows about sacrifices. To begin with, inasmuch as it was no more than usual, no more than natural, that they would wish that some other person who intended to pray for them should be worthy, nay, excellent, because the gods attend to those particularly, so also it is advisable that they themselves should most highly esteem equity and modesty, so that the divinities may be the more inclined to grant their requests. Further, they should offer to the divinities such things as they themselves have with their own hands produced, such as cakes, honeycombs, towers, and perfumes, and should bring them to the altars without the assistance of servants. They should not worship divinities with blood and dead bodies, nor offer so many things at one time that it might seem they meant never to sacrifice again. Concerning their association with men, they should remember that their female nature had by their parents been granted the license to love their husbands more excessively than even the authors of their existence. Consequently, they should take care neither to oppose their husbands nor consider that they have subjected their husbands, should these latter yield to them in any detail. It was in the same assembly that Pythagoras is said to have made the celebrated suggestion that after a woman has had connection with her husband, it is holy for her to perform sacred rites on the same day, which would be inadmissible had the connection been with any man other than her husband. Inadmissible. How do we interpret this? What does this mean? He also advised the women that their conversation should always be cheerful, and to endeavor that others may speak good things of them. He further admonished them to care for their good reputation, and try not to justify the fable writer who accused 3 women of using a single eye in common. So great is their natural willingness to accommodate each other with the loan of garments and ornaments without a witness, that some of them that some one of them has special need thereof, returning them without arguments or litigation. Further, Pythagoras observed that Mercury, who is called the wisest of all, who arranged the human voice, and in short was the inventor of names, whether he was a god, and Jupiter the supermundane gods, the liberated gods, or the planet Mercury, or a divinity, the mercurial order of demons, or a certain divine man, the Egyptian Thoth, or in special animals such as the ibis, ape, or dogs, perceiving that the female sex was most given to devotion, gave to each of their ages the name of one divinity. So an unmarried woman was called Kore, or Proserpine, a bride, Nympha, a matron, a mother, and a grandmother in the Doric dialect Maya. Consequently, the oracles at Dodona and Delphi are brought to light by a woman. A bride is a nympha. So, wait a second. So, a nymphomaniac. Ooh, they do that double talk. No, a nymphomaniac is someone who really, really wants to get married. By this praise of female piety, Pythagoras is said to have effected so great a change in popular female attire that the women no longer dared to dress up in costly raiment, consecrating thousands of their garment in the temple of Juno. This discourse had effect also on marital fidelity, to an extent such that in the Crotonian region connubial faithfulness became proverbial, thus imitating Ulysses, who, rather than abandon Penelope, considered immortality well lost. Pythagoras encouraged the Crotonian women to emulate Ulysses by exhibiting their probity to their husbands. In short, through these social discourses, Pythagoras acquired great fame both in Crotona and in the rest of Italy. Wiedersehen.